Am I the a-hole for humiliating my mother-in-law by teaching her basic genetics? My husband and I have 3 daughters, 7, 5, 3, and another girl on the way. We are not trying to have kids until we have a boy, by the way. We just always wanted to have a big family, so we plan on having 4 babies and stop. I'll call my mother-in-law Janet to make it easier. My husband is Janet's only child, and she is proud of the fact that her family has raised great men. Grandparents, great-grandparents were influential people in my city or even country. And because of that, BS to be honest, they have this tradition to have at least one man to carry on the legacy. My husband totally disagrees with this tradition, and we made a decision together that he would have a vasectomy because we are satisfied with 4 girls. And surprisingly, his mother freaked out when she learned he had a vasectomy and has been pushing to get it reversed. When she saw that her son wouldn't do it, she began to say that I made his mind up and that I was the reason he didn't have a son. We don't cut contact because she helps us a lot with our daughters. She wants to, and she never mistreat them. Besides, they are always excited to go to Grandma's house again. Sunday was the baby shower and it was an event at my house. I had my family, friends, and my husband's family, mother-in-law, his aunts, and some cousins. There were tables scattered around, and my husband's family were at the same table. I went to say hello, talk to them to try to be present with all the tables, and here begins the part about me being an a-hole. The aunts and cousins started to congratulate me for another girl, and I think an aunt said something like, "It's too bad a boy didn't come. It would be perfect for the last child." Janet didn't even let me reply and said with a, "Not all daughter-in-law are capable of carrying out the family legacy." That's sad. I was shocked, and I admit got a little angry. Can I blame the hormones? I replied, "Look, Janet, in case you didn't know, to have a boy depends exclusively on your son's sperm, so stop talking nonsense." She was very embarrassed, so she became quiet and excused herself, left the house without saying anything. My husband thought it was funny, didn't get mad, and agreed that Janet needed it. But I suffered hate from his family who knew about what I did, and said I humiliated her unnecessarily to the point where she walked away from the party and not left for a day of the bedroom. I don't think I did anything wrong. Maybe I could have spoken less harshly, but I was tired of hearing her nonsense, and my limit was the baby shower. And yes, my husband warned her not to talk about this. For fear of different treatment with our youngest, we decided to enter low contact/no contact with her. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. If she didn't want you to tell her the fact, maybe she shouldn't have been trying to badmouth you and intentionally humiliate you at your own baby shower. Not the a-hole. Janet can dish it out but can't take it. Janet shouldn't have opened her mouth. But it's okay to humiliate Opie and not Janet? Glad Opie stood up to her. Seriously, if you don't want to be corrected in front of others, try not being wrong in front of others. Oh, so it was fine when she was trying to humiliate you by stating you were inadequate for not having male children, but you responding with the truth was beyond a pale? Not the a-hole. And to be fair, mother-in-law isn't exactly the gold standard of son-bearing either. If she wanted to improve her chances of having a grandson, she should have had more sons, or even children, herself instead of stopping at 1. She was probably afraid she would have a daughter, who would marry and not carry on the name. Next story. Am I the a-hole for literally showing my dad how he behaves every day when he gets home from work? My female 16, father male 46, is the breadwinner while my mom is a stay-at-home mom. She handles everything around the house, like cooking, mopping, washing, laundry, etc. I'm the oldest and I try to help, but really there's only so much I can do. While my dad just gets home at the end of the day and literally complains about everything, like how the carpet isn't clean or how the food is cold. As a result, I'd have to listen to a huge argument daily between him and mom. It's exhausting, but honestly, I think that my dad is in the wrong here. I tried talking to him to get him to see how his behavior is, but to no avail. So, what I did was pick a day off for him and pretend to act like him. I put together an outfit that looked like a suit and put black tape over my lips to look like a mustache. At 6 p.m., I went inside the house, shouted, "I'm home!" Then sat next to him in the living room and started kicking my shoes while complaining about the state of the house at the top of my lungs. He glanced at me confused, asking what I was doing. I ignored him, then started yelling about the carpet being dirty, shower not ready, the kids needing to be quiet, and so on. He kept staring while mom and my siblings laughed. My youngest brother kept pointing towards me and saying, "This is daddy!" and then proceeded to yell about dinner, then berated my mom for not preparing it before time. My dad stopped me and, in a serious tone, asked what I was doing. I turned to him and said, "What? Can't a man effing rest after working long hours?" in the most macho voice I could muster. My dad got the hint because this was the common phrase he uses daily. He went quiet and avoided looking at me. I stopped the act and told him I was trying to show him what it's like every day when he comes home from work. He said nothing, just went outside and refused to speak to me. Later, he went on about how I mocked and invalidated him, that he does work hard and me doing this was disrespectful and invalidating. Mom said it was funny, but also thought I hurt my dad's feelings, and I could have gotten the message across some other way instead. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. You held up a mirror to his behavior and he didn't like what he saw. That's on him. I hope he gets the message. He didn't even realize he was looking in the mirror until the end. Then all the feelings crashed down hard on him. Hopefully he'll learn. Good job at figuring out a method that illuminated the situation. You can't hurt someone's feelings unless they already feel bad about that thing. Like, a tall person that enjoys being tall isn't going to be upset when someone makes a tall person joke, because they don't have insecurities about being tall. Dad here clearly already feels insecure about his contribution to the family. And when you made it super clear everyone in the house also sees he doesn't contribute properly to the family, he felt like crap. Not the holopi. He needs to see how his behavior is wrong and affects the entire household. Not the hole first off, but I think you have a good chance here. Listen, please. You can acknowledge, "Hey Dad, I know that probably did hurt your feelings and I'm sorry. Of course you work hard and provide for us and we appreciate it. But I want you to see that your behavior hurts Mom's feelings and hurts the family." The fact he went quiet instead of exploding in anger to me says there is hope. Like many dudes his age, he struggles to process those emotions, but he recognized he was feeling more embarrassed/hurt than angry, it seems. The key is to understand and withhold judgment, to recenter the conversation on not just his pain, but everyone's feeling pain and moving forward. That's tough, and you're a kid. It's not your responsibility to do it. You would be morally justified to say F off. But I always ask, do you want to win or be right? Being right often feels hollow. I hope you win. I just want to hop onto this excellent comment to add I would also recommend you having a private chat with your mom. Explain to her that me acting like Dad wasn't just about pointing out his bad behavior towards you. I also want to point out how your marriage affects the whole family. The daily fights and Dad's yelling affects everyone. We all feel it when it gets to the time Dad is due home and we prepare to listen to our dad to be mean to our mom. It affects all of us knowing our dad doesn't respect our mom. Every day we all watch your hard work. We have started trying to help you out because we know our dad doesn't appreciate or respect the hard work you do. It's so bad that younger brother recognized I was pretending to be Dad so quickly, yet Dad didn't know what was going on until the last minute. But what affects me the most is knowing that despite all this, you always put Dad's feelings first, before your own and before everyone else's. Even now, you're more concerned with how what I did hurt Dad's feelings than you are concerned by how Dad's behavior affects the rest of the family. Brother strongly associates that behavior with Dad, while Dad apparently has no idea he behaves like this. And your priority is me apologizing to Dad, not changing this dynamic between you and Dad, or asking Dad to apologize to us for making our atmosphere at home so awful every time he comes home from work. Next story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to share my business profits with my husband? I, female 32, have a leg disability that got worse to the point I could no longer work. So I stayed home with the kids for 4 years. I had plenty of free time after the kids became more independent, and I found myself sitting around all day long. I have a sewing hobby that I learned while living with my grandmother since I was 13, so I started spending my time sewing. My husband made a laughing stock out of me, calling me grandma or granny and running with the jokes and teasing. It was unbearable, but I ignored him. A friend of mine saw some of my works and suggested I open a website and sell what I make. I was hesitant about it, and my husband's opinion was, meh, who would want to buy grandma's junk? But I asked my friend to help me, and people really liked my works. They started buying them off of me, which was shockingly amazing, y'all. I started really investing into this, and in 1 month, I was able to make over $200 to $300. It's been 3 months now into the business. When money started coming, my husband would ask me to buy something or make a restaurant reservation or even fix his car for him. When I refuse, he'd say that I have money from my sewing business and should really pay. I declined every single time he asks. Yesterday, he showed me a wristwatch online that he really liked and asked if I could pay for it. I said no because I have no money. He pointed out once again the money I have for my sewing business, but I told him that the money was literally none of his business. He blew up saying that I was being selfish and mean, and said that the business profit should be split equally between both of us, not just me. I used caps because he yelled those words. I told him he not only mocked me for sewing, he even doubted my potentials. Besides that, I do all the work, so why would he expect profit? He said that he, as my husband, gets half, and I should really consider it or stop the sewing thing altogether. I laughed thinking he was messing around, but he left the house then came back looking pissed. His friend called to scold me, reminding me that my husband already does enough for me to be able to find some time to sew, and so he deserves a percentage, but I still refused. Now his family are pressuring me to share the money, but I'm still refusing. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Everyone sucks here. Your husband sucks for belittling you and discouraging you. But I assume your husband works and has been bringing in an income that he used to pay for food and shelter. You got to share in that, didn't you? Your husband may not deserve a percentage, but you're supposed to be in this marriage together. It doesn't sound like you are. If that's the case, end it with him so you can both find someone more suitable. He's a bit of an unsupportive jerk. But why is your income only yours while his is both of yours? A bit? No. He's a huge, massive, raging, unsupportive a-hole. I'm with the wife on this one. Though I do have to say if my partner were as disrespectful as Opie's, then I would have been gone long ago. He has no respect for her or her business. He's just sticking his grubby hands in the piggy bank now that she's actually making money. I guess she should be paying half the bills / rent / mortgage with her sewing money then, since apparently they don't share any money now. How much would he be paying for before and after school care for their children so he can go to work? Her business is a home business that she does in addition to being a stay-at-home parent. Is he paying her for her job or investing in her business? How much would he be paying for before and after school care for their children so he can go to work? You're talking as if the kids are only his, and the mom should be paid for taking care of her own children. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for telling my ex and his wife that I do not care about their household in front of his stepchild? Ex and I were never married, but we share 2 sons, Cole 9 and Mika 8. 3 years ago, he met his wife Janessa, and 18 months ago they started living together with her kids who are under the age of 10, I believe. The boys struggled with their dad being serious with someone, and I hated that for them, so I put them both into therapy. My ex wasn't thrilled. His biggest complaint was therapy wasn't something he believed in. But our court order states either of us can put the kids in therapy, as long as the parent who makes the choice pays, provides access to the therapist to the other parent, and it doesn't interfere with the other parent's schedule. I take the boys on my time, so it was never an issue. Once they moved in together, the boys started to really dislike things, and it only got worse when my ex and Janessa married. They felt like Janessa was trying to take over as their mom, which they didn't like. There was pressure put on them to call her mom and her kids brother and sister. I don't know everything, as the boys prefer to keep certain things between them and their therapists. But after a while, the 2 therapists raised concerns about the environment at my ex's house, and having no cooperation from him when both tried to speak to him. So it was agreed I should try to amend the parenting time he gets. The judge decided he should go from 50-50 to every other weekend and a dinner every other Wednesday. Ex was not happy. He argued that he could provide them with a 2-parent home. The judge said they were engaging in parental alienation by attempting to force the title of mom for his wife. He also told my ex that he should have cared more about his son's well-being and engaged with their therapists. Ex and Janessa are really unhappy with the new schedule, and they have both attempted to complain to me that it was disruptive to their household to have the boys so little, and to have more money taken out of their household. I do my best not to engage. Janessa's pregnant now, and they wanted to have the boys the weeks leading up to the birth, so they would be present when she has the baby. I said no. I told them it was not the best interest of the boys. So they decided to bring it up around Janessa's daughter, during a moment where the boys were not present, about how it impacted their household and how much of a strain it is on them. I told them I did not care about their household. I care about my sons and their best interest. The child heard, and my ex and Janessa called me an a-hole for saying that in front of her. Am I? Not an a-hole. Your ex and his new wife sound like hard work. Why on earth she would demand they call her mom is anyone's guess. Control thing, I imagine. I hope you and your boys are okay. I suspect is leaving most of the kids' stuff to her, and so she feels like that entitles her to the title of mom. You're probably correct. She should, as a mother, respect that boundary. How would she feel if someone else was telling her kids to call them mom? I hate people. At least they have a good support from you. Thank you. I try my best to keep putting them first, so I have walked away from a good many things that could have become a fight, but it wouldn't be good for them. Janessa is pregnant now and they wanted to have the boys the weeks leading up to the birth so they would be present when she has the baby. Perhaps I'm a bit too jaded, but I'm immediately suspicious. What does she really want her kids around for? Because to see the birth of their half-sibling doesn't ring genuine to me. Have your kids ever complained about being made to do more chores than is fair for an 8 and 9-year-old? Or being made to entertain or watch their step-siblings? You keep doing what is best for your kids, not the a-hole. Chores has never been a complaint for my kids, but there has been a lot of sibling time forced which they haven't liked. They were never left in charge, but for example, Mika's class did a sibling day thing in school for art, and when he only drew him and Cole, my ex and Janessa told him it was wrong because he left out his other siblings. Am I the a-hole for telling my ex's daughter that I am not her aunt or her other mom? I, 34 female, was with Liam, 35 male, for over a decade. Had 2 children with him, and we broke up when I learned he was cheating on me with Ella, 30 female. Ella was pregnant when I learned about their affair, and the 2 of them were very smug about the fact they were going to start a family with my kids, who were young enough at the time to potentially see Ella as a second mom in their lives. Ella was downright nasty, saying she could provide them so much better because her parents were wealthy and she'd be #1 mom in no time. We ended up getting shared custody of our children, and the schedule was week on/week off. Ex and I had to meet at a neutral location per our custody order to reduce conflict and any problems with the exchange of our children. The judge also ruled that Ella could not be present for exchanges given her alienating language toward me. That was not totally hidden from mine and Liam's children. My ex and Ella got a big shock when her family did not support them, following the realization that she helped him cheat and had gotten pregnant with someone who had a family. So they ended up struggling. Well, I was doing better than ever after making a career shift, and wanted to do for a bit before that. They of course realized over time. This was, I think, just after they had their daughter and around the time they got married. Then the name I had heard from their daughter was suddenly changed to my name, and they started being super sycophantic with me, and saying how my kids deserved one family unit, and how their daughter was named after me, was my kid's little sister, how she needed someone to help support her and give her the life her siblings have, etc. I told them they were crazy, and I was not their daughter's anything. They had 2 more girls since then, and apparently they are telling those girls that I'm their aunt and or their other mom, hence the older of the 3 being named after me. The oldest is always trying to seek me out. My ex brings her during exchanges of our kids and she rushes out of the car with my kids. My kids have told me how uncomfortable it makes them because they aren't allowed to correct it. I told my ex he needs to say something and said the same thing to Ella, but they didn't. A few days ago, their oldest sought me out again and asked if she could stay when my kids stay with me, and how she's so glad I'm her aunt and her other mom. I told her I wasn't. I said so kindly, but I was also firm that I was not her aunt or her mom in any way. She got upset and ran back to her parents, and then I got dumped on by Ella for breaking her daughter's heart. She said they had only tried to be nice and make the best of the family situation for the kids, and I was the a-hole. I feel kind of bad because the little girl was devastated. At the same time, I don't have any interest in being part of those 3 girls' lives in any kind of way, except for when I see them for my kids. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. She's calling you the a-hole after you broke her daughter's heart, but she did the same for helping a married man with 2 kids cheat with her. Karma did bite them in the butt. Definitely not a-hole. Not really a-hole comparable, as OP is just kindly telling the truth now after Ella has been making up lies. Ella's the a-hole to her own girls, just to try to weasel some money out of OP, never mind all the stuff before. I feel really bad for the kids stuck in this demented situation. How awful to be lied to by your own parents as a way of manipulating others. Right? Like they want to basically force OP into caring for their daughters financially. At least it seems like money is what they are trying to gain based on what OP has written. It's messed up in such a major way. It's not OP who will get hurt by their actions. It's their own daughters who will be hurt. And that isn't on anyone but them. It's not on OP, it's not on the kids, it's on the ex and his wife. Nothing quite like people who think the only way to live is by guilting and shaming those around them in order to manipulate situations/people to get what they want. Wonder how long until the ex cheats on his current wife, and she will get to first-hand experience what they did to OP. I hope that doesn't happen, but it's not like someone who cheated and rubbed it in their ex's face is going to just never pull that crap again. It seems pretty likely he will cheat again. Then when that happens, his current wife will probably want to be all buddy-buddy with OP for support. Wow, not the whole. She's playing the long game of manipulation and hoping you'll just get worn out and go along with it. I feel sorry for the kid. He's obviously been told a pack of lies. That must hurt a lot. But that's really got nothing to do with you. Your ex should be stepping up here too. He started this crazy situation. And it's his daughter. Next story. Am I the a-hole for sending my daughter home in cheap clothes? I, 35 male, have a daughter Kiki, 7 female, with my ex-girlfriend Yvonne, 34 female, and have 50-50 shared custody. Every time Yvonne sends Kiki back home to me, she's in dingy old clothes. They are either too small and cut so she can fit them, stained, have holes, too big, not weather appropriate, long sleeves in the summer, etc. And her shoes are always filthy. I know Yvonne makes less money than me, which is why we have an agreed upon amount of money I send her monthly for Kiki's expenses. My wife, Sarah, 30 female, also came up with the idea that I just cover Kiki's childcare/education expenses, since it won't break the bank for us, and that way Yvonne can just use all the money I sent her for Kiki. We didn't want to send Kiki home in the clothes her mom sent her in, so we started sending her home in clothes we purchased, and she would always send her home with the outfit ruined. Sarah's mom bought Kiki some cute new shoes, and Kiki begged to wear them to her mom's. She was sent home in another ragged outfit, with the shoes completely ruined and muddy. Yvonne said they went to the park in them. Sarah was angry, so she went and bought a bunch of clothes from stores like Rainbow, H&M, Walmart, etc., and we sent those over there. So if they're ruined, it will not matter, and she can keep all her nice clothes here. Yvonne called us petty and said keeping tabs on clothes and shopping at cheap stores to send to mommy's house is offensive to Kiki and creating a toxic environment. I just don't want my daughter walking around looking a mess when she doesn't have to. It's embarrassing, and I know it doesn't make Kiki feel good. I feel like keeping all her quality stuff and favorite outfits here preserves them, so she has it. She doesn't know the difference between the clothes' quality and just sees the designs. But guys, am I really being selfish and petty? Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. Yvonne, I think, purposely sees to it that the new clothes you send Kiki in are ruined. Now she's mad because you are sending Kiki to her in clothes where it won't matter if they are ruined or not. She's the a-hole. This is why Sarah was so angry about the shoes. She felt it was intentional, but honestly, I don't think that's far-fetched. Yvonne is being patty boots. She is big mad and wants to force you to keep spending money on clothes. She's legitimately trying to punish you for moving on and having a life without her. I have 3 kids, 2 boys and 1 girl. Even when my boys were small and we went to the park or played in the rain, their clothes were still salvageable after a good wash. Here's what's happening. Kiki, Mommy, do you like my new outfit? Me and Daddy and Sarah went shopping and Sarah picked it. Yvonne, yes, sweetie, it's super cute. Do you want to go to the cemetery and dig graves with me? You can roll around in the dirt. We can find some water and make some mud, and you can dance in the mud. When we are done with that, let's go play CSI and cover ourselves in red paint to make a crime scene. This is why Kiki is coming home filthy. Keep her nice clothes at your house and send her to Yvonne's house in Couture from Target. Start keeping a photographic record of your kid when she arrives. If you're giving money for her needs, there's no reason for her to be ragged and dirty all the time. But there may be misuse of the money you send, as well as neglect involved. Keep your daughter safe, man. Thank you. I have been keeping pictures and we brought this up before in court. I'm hoping we don't have to go back, but gotta do what you gotta do. Does your ex have proper laundry facilities available to her? Is it possible that she does not have access to laundry in home or the money to go to a laundromat? She has a laundromat in her building, I believe. My daughter has mentioned putting quarters in the machine at mommy's house, but if that was the case, then I feel like she would have brought that up in one of our many discussions about this. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for telling a parent that if they want their kid included in everything, they need to be taught better manners? I have an 8-year-old son and he has a group of friends he's known since his preschool days. There's 4 of them total. This post is about one of the boys, EJ. EJ has always been a sweet enough kid, but something that always bothered us but got worse is he would want more food than he could handle, but also wouldn't take well being asked to wait and see how he does with a smaller portion first. Examples. I took my son and his friends to see a movie and it was a little later in the day, so we went to McDonald's after, which isn't uncommon. And while there, he wanted burger, fries, nuggets, ice cream, and another dessert. I asked him to pick the 2 food stuff he wanted most, and we would get him more if he was still hungry, and desserts would come after regardless. He was like, no way. I always eat more than that. I didn't want to come down on a kid who wasn't mine, so I was like, okay. He ate less than half the food overall. Another time my husband was home with the kids, he ordered food to our house. EJ wanted a medium pizza and a chicken bite box, which is a lot of food. But my husband kinda shrugged and bought it for him. One of the other kids asked if he could eat some since EJ wasn't eating much, and EJ said no. And by the time he left, it was gone so cold, and again there was about half of it just left there, with the bites taken out of some stuff and left there. Last example is the time I had EJ after school one Friday, because his parents needed to go someplace. We went grocery shopping and I had mentioned we had food at home. EJ begged and pleaded for burgers. And against my better judgment, I did take him, and this time I was firmer with not ordering too much. And I had raised this issue with his parents before. He got so mad because he couldn't order the 3 deluxe burgers and fries. Like he was saying, yes, telling me he was allowed to eat like that. I brought up him not being able to finish, and he said he can. He sulked the whole time, and then his parents were mad that I didn't feed their kid enough. So, I no longer allow him to come if the thing is going to end in us getting food, because it's money we are throwing away. The other parents in the friend group have had the exact same problem. EJ's parents realized EJ was included less and brought it up to me. I explained the issue. They said I was being an a-hole to a kid. I told them if they want their kid included in everything, then they need to teach him manners around spending other people's money. Or they could send money with him. And if they want to waste it, that's fine by me. But I pointed out that it's expensive to throw away huge amounts of food. It's not something they were never made aware of, but I know it probably is hard on EJ if he knows about it, even if he is included to a degree still. I don't know. This has just brought more bad blood and I don't feel the best about it. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole, and you're absolutely right. His parents should be sending him with money for these outings. Never in my life as a child was I sent with someone else's parent and not sent with money to pay for food or activities. And if the other parent had offered to pay for me, I was certain to only order what I knew I could eat. And I definitely had manners because my parents did not play that game. Bottom line, if they want their child included, they should teach him how to act and order accordingly. We take my nephew/nieces out sometimes, and I wish there was a menu that didn't list prices every time. They're so polite that they look at the cheapest options versus what they'd really like to eat. I'm wise to that now and convinced them to enjoy the treat. I'm lucky. It sounds like EJ might have an issue like food insecurity at home. Over-ordering food and hoarding, the refusal to share, can be signs of something like that. I would try to be more understanding of him. Maybe order in advance or make mobile orders so that you are just picking up food for the group of kiddos and reassure EJ that if he is still hungry, he can have more. He does not like that at all. We get sulking at a lot if he's allowed to eat like whatever at home. Reassuring him does not make it any better. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for not moving my family to help my sister-in-law and parents? Plus update. I, 37 male Canadian, a few months back I lost my twin brother to a drunk driver. He was the older twin, and despite the fact we looked the same, we were very different. He could do no wrong in our parents' eyes even when he was drinking/using substances and stealing. I, however, could do nothing correctly and was even blamed for everything bad he did. He stole money from a church, and it was my fault because I didn't support him enough type deal. I honestly had a very long post typed out that went into more details, but I'm just going to go with the TLDR version. Because of my parents always placing the blame on me for what my brother did, I joined the army and moved away at 19. I was 31 before anyone in my family ever returned any of my Facebook messages or text messages. I didn't send many, but I did make the first step, normally before I deployed. We finally put our past behind us and reconnected. I met his wife and 4 kids. They're awesome. We talked about getting our parents to move in with me, as at the time I was single and had a room for them and could easily support them financially. My dad lost his job, their health was declining, and our old family house was falling apart. They didn't want to move and came up with BS reason not to all the time. I am now married with 2 kids and have a nice house in Manitoba with a fair amount of land. With my brother's passing, his wife has no family to look to for support, and my parents only have me left. I have offered to cover the expenses and move them all out to Manitoba. My parents can stay in my camper. It's a very nice camper, 44 feet, better than most apartments. My sister-in-law and the kids can stay in our basement that is fully furnished and has the space till they can get their own place. She's a nurse like my wife, and my wife can get her some work. But nope, they want me to sell everything and move out to them. They live in the Ottawa area. My sister-in-law has limited space with just them in their house, and my old family home doesn't even currently have a working furnace and looks like a crack house. They want me to use the money from selling my house to fix up the old family house, and everyone will move into that. I told my parents and sister-in-law I will not be selling my house and everything else to move to Ottawa area. The cost of living is close to 4 times higher there than where I am. I have the means to support everyone where I am, till everyone is settled into the new area. I do not have the same means to do so there. It's been a week now and no one returning any means of communication with me. Wow, that's some choosing beggar stuff here. Definitely not the a-hole for refusing to sell your home to move to a new province with a significantly higher cost of living. You're the a-hole to yourself, though, for continuing to allow your toxic family to take advantage of you like this. I totally get it, though. Family and all, and a desire for them to care about you the way you should be. But don't set yourself on fire to keep other people warm. Precisely. When someone shows you who they are, believe them. Your parents have been awful to you from the start. Apparently, your sister-in-law jumped on the bandwagon. I know it hurts, but you have to accept that they don't want the best for you and let them go. OP, I'm very sorry. Your parents have shown by word and deed that they do not care about you. This was true before your brother died. It is true now. If your parents move out to Manitoba and live in your property, they would quickly make your life miserable. If you moved to Ontario, the process would be even faster. Your sister-in-law can get a job as a nurse anywhere. There is a massive shortage all across Canada thanks to COVID-19. Echoing the above to say, don't set yourself on fire to keep them warm. Not the a-hole, obviously. Now for the little update. Wanted to take a second and say thank you to everyone. This has helped a lot. There are some really good point of views in here I hadn't considered at the time of writing this. I do want to help them because they are family, but I'm not willing to risk hurting my family for people I would honestly consider extended family. That may sound bad, but my wife and kids have given me more support than my own parents, so wife and kids come first. Am I the a-hole for ruining my brother's proposal and refusing to clear his name until he gives me half the money for my wedding? I, 35 male, admit to being a spiteful person when pushed, but I want to know if I'm truly the a-hole when I gave multiple and explicit warnings as to deter my vengeance. I have a younger brother, Todd, 29 male, who had a complicated birth and had to stay a month in the ICU. And because of that, my parents have always doted on him and almost denied him nothing, even if it was to the detriment of my sister Abby, 32 female, and I. My brother drinks in on the attention and has on more than one occasion made himself the center of attention at either my sister's, or a cousin's special event. Because of this, Abby and I have a strained relationship with Todd and our parents. Unfortunately, Todd met and fell in love with Lucy, a 24 female, who announced her own pregnancy at the baby shower my mom held for Abby. When I proposed to my wife Michelle, 30 female, I just wanted to elope, but she really wanted her family to be there, so I invited my family out of obligation. While out, my best man Jim, 35 male, noticed a receipt from a jewelry store slipped out of Todd's pocket. Jim confronted Todd about this, which led to an argument. Jim told me everything, and I told Todd that he was no longer going to be a groomsman because I knew he was going to propose at my wedding. Todd cried to our parents, which led to a blowout. In my parents' eyes, since Todd never admitted that he was going to propose to Lucy at my wedding, I was unfairly judging him. I refused and brought up Todd's past behavior. My parents couldn't refute this and got Todd to agree to not try anything at my wedding. This wasn't enough to convince me to let him be a groomsman, but I warned him that if, as a guest, he'd try anything, I would make him regret it. Fast forward to the wedding, and surprise, surprise, Todd walked over to Lucy and proposed to her during Michelle's father-daughter dance and did it in a way so that everyone would notice. Cue my revenge. Jim and I had hired a woman to pretend to be Todd's side piece who cornered Todd and Lucy and claimed that she was pregnant with his baby. Todd denied this, but when she called his phone, as I gave his number and messed with Todd's phone to incriminate him, it didn't look good. Lucy threw the ring back at Todd and left in tears. When Todd saw the smile on my face, he knew that it was me, and I didn't respond to a single call/text from him or my parents until after the honeymoon. Lucy has thrown Todd's stuff out and has been denying access to their kid. Todd is furious and is demanding that I clear his name. I sent him a text saying that I had no idea what he was talking about, as well as a screenshot of a bill for the wedding, and gave a vague message demanding reimbursement for half of the wedding costs. Michelle knew the whole time what I was planning and gave me the green light after Todd ruined her moment with her dad, so I felt pretty good. But now even Abby thinks I went too far. Am I the a-hole? Edited to add because I keep seeing this and/or people were asking questions. 1. I warned Todd multiple times that if he proposed at my wedding, I would make him regret it. 2. In this scenario, Abby is my sister and Lucy is Todd's girlfriend. 3. During the father-daughter dance, there was a spotlight on Michelle and her dad with a camera on them that was recording live on a large screen for everyone to see. Todd pulled Lucy out and knelt down right in the eye line of the camera, and that's how everyone saw. 4. In specific situations, I can see an argument of Lucy being innocent, but she's not innocent overall. As stated previously, Lucy announced her own pregnancy at Abby's baby shower, so she likes to steal the attention too. Now for the comments. You're the a-hole and Todd is also an a-hole. Lucy and their kid are innocent. This is a cruel revenge. You could have done something that only hurts Todd. I agree with Abby that you went too far. What if Lucy was crazy and unalive Todd and herself and her baby? This stuff happens on the news very often. I'll give you their child, but Lucy is just as much an attention hog as Todd. She made Abby's baby shower all about her when she announced her own pregnancy. You could have done something less harmful but have the same effect on him, like hiring a bunch of granny strippers to show up at their wedding or something like that. I seriously doubt that that would have the same effect as what I did. Everyone sucks here. I really wanted to say not the a-hole, but this is a bit much, only because there's a kid involved and your brother isn't able to see it. It seems inevitable that at some point, you're going to have to come clean to help repair that relationship, and then Todd is going to seem like a total victim. And he and Lucy will be vindicated to keep acting entitled, which really sucks. I wonder if they're adult enough to sit down and have a proper discussion where everyone can apologize. Our parents have spent too many years making excuses for Todd for him to ever give a genuine apology. Next story. Am I the a-hole for saying no to be a bridesmaid to my childhood best friend for being engaged to my ex? So Jane, 29 female, and I, 29 female, have known each other since we were in middle and high school together. She went to college in California while I went to college in Georgia. During college, Jane and I visited each other. She's younger than me, so I flew to LA for her 21st birthday and we always met up when we were home, etc. My junior year, I met Kyle, senior at the time. After he graduated, he moved to New York City for a job. While I was not intending on staying on the East Coast, I ended up also moving to New York City, partially to be with him. Then Kyle decided he wants a change of pace and wants to move to LA. We talked a lot about it. I asked if he could wait 6 months and move together since I just got promoted. He found a job and he moved to LA in May of that year instead of waiting. It's worth noting that Jane had moved to LA January of that year. I'm not sure at what point Jane and Kyle got together. They were already familiar with each other because of all the times Jane had visited and the times when I brought Kyle home. Kyle and I started fighting a lot more. I was stressed and frustrated. And that August, we broke up. Kyle and I kept talking and he decided he didn't like LA and was going to move back to New York City. Then COVID hits, and I find out that they may be together through friends. I asked Jane about it, and she said they were just hanging out a lot because he was still new and didn't have a lot of friends. Jane was constantly posting stories on Instagram and they looked too close to be just friends. So I didn't believe her. She kept saying they're just friends, and I unfollowed both of them on Instagram and neither of them said anything. Jane and I haven't really talked since everything happened. And now they're engaged. Jane asked me to be a bridesmaid and I said no. I felt it would be a little uncomfortable for me. I felt Kyle had been stringing me along while he was in LA and I feel awkward that they weren't honest about it from the beginning. But Jane is saying I can bring my current boyfriend as my +1 and Kyle agreed with her. Now she and my sister both think I'm overreacting and should just say yes. So am I the a-hole for saying no? Not the a-hole. It really sounds like he may have cheated on you with your best friend. At the very least, they got together soon after you two broke up. They kept the relationship from you and lied about it. This isn't an episode of Friends where everything can be hunky-dory. I don't know too many people that would be comfortable in this situation outside of a sitcom or rom-com movie. Yep, they want Opie there so they can pretend they did nothing wrong to everyone else. Not the a-hole. I think you are very correct. And her having to explain why you weren't there might make them uncomfortable, even for a little bit. Not the a-hole. Not only is it weird they both want you there after all that's happened, but to be a bridesmaid on top of it as well? If she is a bridesmaid, it means she's validated their relationship and forgiven them. They may not be fully conscious of it, but it might be a part of their reasoning. Some no harm, no foul mental gymnastics. Yep, it's all about the optics. They will likely pressure Opie more because she's saying no, and if she isn't there, they can't pretend she's okay with it. Next story. Am I the a-hole for uninviting my dad to my wedding because he took back the money he promised? I want to be clear that this is not about money. I know no one owes us money, but he promised and it is about his reasoning. My fiancé and I are currently planning a wedding, and my mom got herself uninvited as we found out she had made some jokes behind our back about my fiancé's appearance/style, and saying she was never going to be anything more than a stay-at-home mom. I was furious and uninvited her. A couple of people told me I was being an a-hole as it was a one-time thing. She said not thinking it would get back to us. Also, she was tipsy, maybe a bit drunk. My dad, they aren't married, recently found out she wasn't going to be there and confronted me. He said what she said wasn't nice, but realistically, people talk crap and gossip, and I should give her the chance to apologize and move on. I explained that I can't let someone who feels that way come to our wedding, and he said I was being ridiculous. He said he was no longer going to pay for our wedding if I was going to treat my mom like that. I decided to uninvite him too, as I feel he's no longer a supportive person. My fiancé was privy to this conversation and is obviously hurt. She doesn't want him there either, so I feel the need to support her. But now my dad and his wife are telling everyone how we feel entitled to their money and how arrogant we are for uninviting everyone who disagrees with us. I feel slightly weird about it because obviously he doesn't have to pay for our wedding. Now for the top comments. I do think yours is a bit of an extreme reaction and definitely about the money. But I also have to wonder if your mom hasn't tried to apologize in between her crap talking and you finding that out. Part of me believes that if she really wanted to make it up and actually felt guilty, she would have already done that. So everyone sucks here, I guess. She apologized, but it was a crappy apology. She was like, I shouldn't have said that, so sorry. But don't be a baby because we all know she makes fun of me as well. Does she? Yes, to be honest. But at least she has the sense not to do it in a crowd where it is going to get back to my mom. Newsflash, if your mom knows, it's getting back to her. You're the a-hole for taking such extreme action every time a guest does anything remotely wrong surrounding your wedding. Yes, it's your wedding and you can invite and disinvite whoever you want. And yes, standing up for your fiancé is the right thing to do. However, at least from the way you wrote this, it seems you don't have any kind of conversations with people before deciding they're out. And not just any person, but your mother and father. You're like the soup Nazi from Seinfeld. You just stand there and go, no more wedding for you. Next. Heh, it's quite immature. Your mother shouldn't have spoken ill about your fiancé. But is she willing to apologize? Is she remorseful? Edit, mother-in-law did apologize. Unless she has a history of being mean to you/your fiancé, I think making her miss her child's wedding for a one-off comment is extreme. Edit. It turns out it's the other way around, and the fiancé has a history of talking crap about mother-in-law behind her back. LMAO. Your father shouldn't have held money over your head. But the funny thing is that he is doing for your mother the same thing you're doing for your fiancé, even though they aren't married. He is reacting extremely to you wronging her and going nuclear with no more wedding money for you. You and your fiancé sound very immature. And while standing up for her is right, you have to be careful to analyze if this isn't her subtly isolating you from your family. Edit, I'm now more sure than ever that fiancé is using this wedding for a power move at isolating OP from his parents. Last story. Am I the a-hole for calling my fiancé a trigger-happy loon and threatening to cancel our wedding? Me, 27 male, and my fiancé Lizzie, 27 female, are finally getting to planning our wedding after putting it off for an entire year. And I'm not kidding when I say this. It has been a nightmare. Lizzie has gone full-on Bridezilla. I get that wedding planning is hard as I'm literally doing it, but she has legitimately gone off the freaking rails. She's been snapping at family members, threatening to uninvite them at every turn. The other day, my parents called me and told me that Lizzie had uninvited them from the wedding. And of course, I was freaking angry. She didn't even have the gall to tell me herself. Was she just thinking I wouldn't find out? Oh, and you want to know why she uninvited them? They didn't like the flowers she picked. And I say she picked because she didn't tell me about that either. I confronted her yesterday asking her why she tried to uninvite my parents, and we got into a huge argument over it, with her yelling at me asking why I was still supporting my parents after they showed such disrespect towards her. I asked her why the hell she has been making all of these decisions without even consulting me first, and she said that it was her wedding, so she should be able to make all the decisions. We have never had a fight like this before. I was at my wit's end, especially after she called me a controlling piece of crap. So I snapped and called her a trigger-happy loon. And if she wanted a wedding all about her, she could marry herself, because I was so freaking done. She stormed out of the house, insulting me with every step. She got in the car and drove to her parents' house, and she's been there since the fight. I called my sister sobbing and told her what had happened. She agrees that Lizzie was way out of line, but that we should try reconciling. Lizzie refuses to speak to me until she gets an apology. But I don't think I'm in the wrong. It's my wedding too. But she acts like I'm just a decorative piece of her special day. But I'm really starting to feel horrible. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. I know a running joke on Reddit is instantly giving the advice you should break up. But if this were me, I'd be thankful this side of her was exposed before we said I do. And I'd run very far away from this pile of red flags in the shape of a human woman. Exactly. Not the a-hole. You should thank the heavens you got to see the side of her before the wedding. Trust me, it'll only get worse. Think about major life events and how she'll act if she's acting like this during your wedding. She is a nightmare and will continue to be a nightmare. Think about how you want the rest of your life to play out and make the best decision for yourself. You've received a blessing in the shape of a Bridezilla. This, buddy, in real life, every bride I've ever known who has gone Bridezilla has made the entire marriage about them. Their wants, their desires, their dreams. You'll be but a player in her narcissistic bubble. A wedding is about both of you and should reflect both of you. People shouldn't be uninvited unless it's for some pretty significant reasons like abuse, not just because they have a difference of opinion from the bride. She disrespected you and your entire family by uninviting your parents. Over flowers. Over flowers you didn't get to have an opinion on. Trust me when I say that she is showing who she truly is. She has a lot of growing up to do and needs to learn that the world doesn't revolve around her before a wedding should even be discussed. Honestly, put the brakes on the wedding. Postpone it while you figure out what you want, and insist on a real couples counseling from a real marriage and family therapist before setting a new date, to ensure the big glaring issues are resolved before committing one more date to someone dropping with selfishness. I fully agree. We internet strangers cannot tell you OP if your relationship is worth saving. But for sure you need to put the wedding planning on pause until things cool down. The question is, why is your fiancé behaving this way? Blaming the Bridezilla is easy, but it'd be useful for you to understand where her behavior comes from. Is she afraid? And being 100% in control is the coping strategy she opted for. Does she feel social pressure to have the perfect wedding and she's actually overwhelmed? Or is she simply a witch and you now only found out? Only you can tell OP. Not the a-hole. Run. I asked her why the hell she has been making all of these decisions without even consulting me first. She said that it was her wedding, so she should be able to make all the decisions. Run far, far away. Stop threatening to cancel the wedding, and just cancel it. Save yourself the divorce and ramification of potentially having children with this person. Lol, if it's her wedding and only hers, who is she marrying? Update. Boyfriend faked death and called my reaction manipulative. Original post. Me and my boyfriend. I'm 21 female, he's 24 male. Together for 3 years. Live apart but have/had plans to rent together soon. Everything's perfect before this. Backstory. I have a history of self-harm. I have done it since I was 11 years old. The last time I did it was 2 years ago. I have some brutal scars, but I'm doing much better and I'm in therapy. It's been a while since I even had the urge. My boyfriend had an ex before me who played mind games a lot. I feel it's relevant as he sometimes thinks I'm playing games when I'm not. For example, he was wary when we started dating that I would self-harm for attention or do it to punish him. His ex would threaten things like that if he ever left her. I don't/haven't ever done this, and despite my struggles, I'm pretty good with being patient and communicative. Until this, I considered us to have a really healthy relationship. Main story. Boyfriend went out drinking with his friends. I usually hear from him as he gets home 2 a.m.-ish to let me know he is home and safe, but I didn't hear anything last night. I figured he just forgot. No biggie. I went to bed as normal. I woke up to 11 a.m. to a bunch of missed calls from his mother. They live together. I called her back and she texted at 1 p.m. that she couldn't talk. I was kind of worried and told her as much. She said my boyfriend didn't get home last night and was in a crash and didn't make it. This was super weird to me since I get on well with his mom and would never expect to be told this via text. After some more texting, I fully believed my boyfriend had passed away that morning, and I totally shut down. The people I live with were all out that day, so I was alone. Grief set in immediately and I had an extremely bad relapse on my self-harm. At that point, I didn't even care. I was just hurting so much that my usual coping techniques just weren't doing their job. I listened to old voice notes of his and even sent one telling him how much I loved him through the most unhinged sobbing I've ever done. Well, he arrived at my house 20 minutes later saying it was a prank, since he got into a small bump and thought I'd get mad about him driving drunk, as well as about him mushing up his car a little. And him and his friends came up with this plan to just make me happy he was alright. So they took his mom's phone and the above happened. I obviously was thankful he wasn't dead. But I had a million other much stronger emotions. I was so angry he drove drunk. So angry he saw nothing wrong with it. So angry that he would lie about something so serious. And absolutely heartbroken that he let me sit in grief for over an hour until I sent a voice note that made him feel bad. Plus lots of other things I'm still struggling to articulate. He found out I harmed myself and flew off the handle. He said I punished him and turned a harmless prank into something much more serious and ruined the joke of it. He said I was guilting him for having fun, and now he can't trust I would do it again. He even suggested I stay in hospital for my mental issues for a few weeks and crank up therapy. He said he can't leave me if he wants now, or else I'll act like this, just like his ex. I am beyond hurt. I probably should look into therapy if I'm still resorting to it, I admit. But this was not an everyday bout of anxiety or even a breakup. I thought he died. I'm also very aware that his actions were massively crappy, and he is being so manipulative in the aftermath. How is it a punishment if I thought he was gone? I absolutely would not react like this if he just broke up with me, and I have never said or hinted at that. Not really sure what to do now. My gut tells me to leave him over this, but I'm so unsure. Now for the top advice before reading the update. What a sick joke. You need to break things off ASAP. What a cruel thing to do. I could never even be friends with someone who did this. The worst part is that he did it to get away from the consequences of drinking and driving. He willingly and purposely hurt you to ease the repercussions of his actions. Let that sink in. And dump him, please. He's a piece of trash. He even took his mom's phone to make it look like she was in on it. That takes it to a whole new level of cruelty. OP, I would dump him immediately and tell his mom what he did. Make sure you actually talk to her so you know she actually knows what he did. Please listen to your gut. This is beyond horrible behavior, not a harmless prank. You deserve to be with someone who has compassion and respect for you. If anything, the boyfriend needs therapy. The boyfriend is a horrible person. What he did shows deep character flaws. The drunk driving is bad enough, the more so because he knew it was wrong and chose to do it anyway. But the harmless prank? That's just mean. So disrespectful and inconsiderate, made all the more so by your personal history. And speaking of the accident, did he leave the scene of an accident while he was driving drunk? Or was he late getting home because he got a DUI? He bumped into a fence post, so luckily nobody was injured. But the potential was there as well as the carelessness. I don't know if he was late or not, honestly. I think he planned this almost immediately and not texting me all night as part of it. Now for the update. Long story short, I broke up with him for the following reasons. 1. Drunk driving, endangering himself and others. 2. Took his mother's phone and made me think it was her. Deception. 3. Telling me he was dead. Deception/extreme emotional stress. 4. Letting me think that for hours. I could list every negative trait for that one. Borderline sociopathic behavior. 5. Not being sorry for any of these things. Twat. 6. Telling me I'm too sensitive. Invalidation, shifting blame. 7. Being mad at me for relapsing. Unsupportive, uncaring, unkind. I still won't blame him for the relapse though, as many people here wanted me to. That is on me and I'm still going to therapy regularly for that. So, for those interested, I took a few days to myself. I did speak over the phone to his mom and she was incredibly apologetic on his behalf. I taught her how to put a passcode on her phone. After that, we met up and I outlined the things I listed above. He seemed apologetic and sincere about all of them and listened to me well. Unfortunately, he didn't quite understand that being apologetic wouldn't get me to change my mind on ending the relationship. So his true colors came out at the end. He got annoyed at me for ending it and again told me I was dramatic and other invalidating arguments. Oh well, I said what I needed to say, and that's enough closure for me. Wow, boyfriend is such a piece of trash. What is with people who think faking a death is a prank? Especially committing to it for hours. With a person who has a history of harming themselves when emotions get so high. Why would you do this? This dude makes me so mad. Poor OP. I'm the type that tries to find a silver lining in everything, and I can see too here. She got rid of an unsupportive, selfish, insert bad word, guy. She also figured out a potentially powerful trigger for her to regress in self-harm, so could work on that as unfortunately death is a part of life she will have to deal with in the future. Glad she left him. What he did was unforgivable. Yep, that is a line in the sand. Absolutely no coming back from it kind of situation. I would completely change how I saw the person after that. I think anyone would. The fact that he still doesn't even get how awful what he did was. It's just the final nail, so she knows she made the right decision. But no amount of apologizing could undo what he did. I could literally never trust that person again. I could never have a fulfilling relationship because of the doubt. All down the drain. If he didn't have bad intentions and is just a moron, that's almost sadder. Part of me thinks his mom tore him a new one, assuming she knew before they talked given the post layout, and thought sorry would get him out all of his trouble. When it didn't, the anger he has from the punishments of his own actions came back up and he lashed out. Personally, I think he needs more therapy than what he's pushing OP to get. Man is unhinged. I'd 100% blame him for the relapse, especially after the zero remorse. I'd bet if she hadn't self-harmed, he'd have been griping that she didn't really love him. This guy's bad news. Next story. My husband is pushing me to agree to make my sister our surrogate using the traditional way. My husband and I have been struggling with infertility. We've tried some options, and right now we're looking into surrogacy. My sister agreed to do it, but my husband said he looked at how much time and money IVF would take, and slowly started hinting that we'd take the traditional way. I was too shocked to even say anything, but he acted like what he said was not even that big of a deal. He explained that it's just a quick way for us to have a baby and spare the money and time to use later. I'm 100% against it. That is why I'm backing down, and I'm no longer comfortable with the whole surrogacy route. I can't even imagine my sister's reaction once she hears my husband's suggestion. I'm both devastated over the fact that 1, he'd even entertain sleeping with my sister just because he wants the easy way. And 2, if I ever agree despite feeling uncomfortable, then I will always carry this memory of how the baby is conceived. I refused and shut his suggestion down hard. He's now started guilting me, saying I don't trust him, then saying I'm selfish for choosing to back out when he still wants to be a dad like he expected when he married me, basically blaming me for my infertility issues. I feel so devastated, and like my body's useless and has failed me to the point where I could expect any negative comment on it whether true or not, emotionally and mentally. I just can't express how I feel right now. By the way, my sister is 4 years younger than me. I'm 34 years old and my husband is 37. Now for the top advice. What has your sister said? Do you think they've done it already? Opie, you are not useless, but your husband is. My sister has no idea. I'm not planning on telling her because I won't let it happen. I'm not even considering his suggestion. And if he wants to keep saying that I'm the problem, then it's fine with me. I've endured so much for the past years mentally, physically, and emotionally, and now it won't be much different. Why do you want to have babies with this man? You can have babies with anyone else, but this guy is not husband or father material. First of all, I'm very sorry you are dealing with this. Nobody should ever have to feel this way. Second, I really hope and pray that you see this for what it is, and not allow him to guilt you into something you clearly do not want. I'm angry for you, because there's no way in hell that would just blow over with me personally. It's such an insensitive thing to say during such a difficult situation. I feel terrible as it is, and did not need to have to deal with this on top of everything else going on. I lost my mom a month ago and my emotions have been all over the place. I admit that I can get upset and agitated pretty easily, but his suggestion was beyond shocking. I feel like me and him just keep diving deeper into more issues that have significantly affected our marriage. I offered couples counseling, but he said no. I feel like the universe has protected you in a way. He is showing so many red flags. Gaslighting you too. Who's to say he isn't the one with the issues? It is not your fault. None of this is. I'm so sorry for your loss with your mother. I wish you the very best ahead in life, whatever you choose to do. Now for the last story. My boyfriend expects me to do majority of the housework even though I work double his hours. How do I resolve this without an argument? Background. I'm 30 female, he's 38 male. We've been together for 7 years and have lived together for 2. Throughout the 7 years we've been together, I have consistently worked full-time. He, on the other hand, is on and off with work and hasn't lasted for longer than 4 months in a job. I would say in total, he's worked perhaps 1.5 years in our relationship. The house we live in is his. It has no mortgage as his dad paid it all. We split the bills, but I would say in total I have contributed more financially if we are including socializing, holidays, groceries. One thing he has always done while being unemployed is cook for us almost daily, once a day as we do 1 meal a day, and take the trash out. He also did laundry once a week. I did dishes, bathroom, and other stuff. To be fair, it's a relatively small house, and just the 2 of us, so there's not a massive amount to do. I was really happy with this arrangement because having healthy food cooked every day took a massive mental load from my mind. I had no complaints. The issue is 6 weeks ago, he got a part-time job, 20 hours a week. And now we do the cooking 5 out of 7 days a week, plus all of the rest of the housework. The only thing he does is take the bins out once a week and do laundry once a week. I feel like on top of working full-time, it is a lot for me to do alone. The worst part is he will always pick at small, minor things I've forgotten to do or haven't done to his liking. As an example, I cleaned the whole bathroom until it was sparkling and the only thing he said after he saw it was, "You left the soap dish on the wrong side of the bath." This really hurts my feelings as I feel like I'm doing a lot for nothing. No praise, no recognition that I do all of this on top of working double his hours. Sometimes I don't feel comfortable confronting him because part of me feels ashamed about complaining about housework as a woman. Almost as if it makes me less of a woman to not be okay with this. I really feel like I'm going crazy because it doesn't even acknowledge the big difference in what we do. What's scary is, we actually have the same dynamic as my parents. My mom did all of the housework and paid all of the bills, while my dad was in and out of work his whole life. I don't want that life. Can someone advise on how I can navigate this without starting an argument? It always becomes an argument. I found this comment you wrote not too long ago. Currently in a draining relationship and having to manage his emotions like he's a toddler. I'm working, paying for majority of stuff and he can't keep a job because he's lazy and impulsive. I felt your comment so hard. Was thriving when I was single. So the housework is just the tip of the iceberg. What exactly keeps you with this loser besides inertia? He brings nothing to the table. He brings free rent. Can't see much else. So it's simply a math issue of if it's better for Opie to move out, pay rent and be chore happy. Or stay put as the free housing is worth more than the extra chores. I expect she's in the same predicament as many people living in this manner, where she may not be able to cover a place like this on their own salary. If she can, she should be off this farm and packing her stuff. I expect her feet are financially glued to the place, if you get my drift. This might make me sound stupid, but I'm actually not financially glued to him. My mom lives down the road and my room is waiting for me. She would also value me contributing to that household again. I also have savings, so could put down 50% on a house deposit if I were to get into a relationship with someone willing to put in the other half. In the meantime, I would be happy living with my mom as it's a big house and we have a good relationship. I know, this makes me sound even more silly for staying. It sounds like you know the answer here. Hey, your boyfriend dropped these red flags. No, seriously, he's a douche canoe, and you need to find a new boyfriend. He sucks and is a horrible human being. Or even, I know this sounds crazy, be single for a bit. Opie hasn't been single since she was 23. Depending on if she went to college, she's been with this guy potentially her entire adult life. Opie, it's hard to imagine, but you don't have to be with someone if you don't have great reasons for why you still want to be with him. Thanks for understanding. Sometimes it's so hard to try to explain why I can't leave when we have no practical ties. I did go to college, but got with him almost immediately after. I'm very laid back and fun-loving, but he's very intense and dominating. I feel like since I was very young, he's just gotten into my head massively to the point where a lot of his ideas and thoughts have become mine. It was only when I got to around 28 that I started understanding why someone with his personality is so attracted to someone with my personality. If I'm completely honest, I know deep down what's happened here and the situation I'm in. It's just so freaking hard to entangle my psyche from him, almost like my brain is in quicksand. I think the first step would be confiding in someone close to me because I've never done that. Ashamed and embarrassed.
Update. Am I the a-hole for misleading my cousin and destroying his marriage? Original post. There's some really weird drama in my family, and I feel like I'm going insane. So here's the background. My family is a little unusual. There are 3 adults and 2 children. The adults are me, my wife, and another woman best described as my wife's platonic life partner, and also my very dear friend. I'll call the partner Sally. Sally has lived with us for 20 years. The kids call her Ma. We live in a 4-bedroom house, and Sally and the kids each have their own bedrooms. Sally is aromantic and asexual. She and my wife love each other very much, but platonically. Sally is like a sister to me. I cannot overstate how incredibly platonic her relationships with both of us have always been. We're all very happy together. I've been super glad we have her since we had kids. Parenting is so much easier when you have a numbers advantage. My cousin Dave has been married to his wife Mary for something like 15 years. They have 2 kids. Dave talked Mary into opening the relationship about a year ago, and now they're getting divorced because he's struggling to find anyone willing to date him. Well, Mary isn't, and he's incredibly mad about it and destroying their relationship. And by it's, I kind of mean he is. He's jealous and resentful, and making that her problem. And also now mine, because he says it's my fault. According to him, he thought it would totally work great because my family make polygamy and open relationships look easy. Which, what? Setting aside that Sally's relationships with both my wife and me are platonic, there's no open relationship in our household. Sally and I each get a weekly date night with my wife. I take the kids on her night, she takes them on mine. I did say parenting is easier with a numbers advantage. I think my wife and I have significantly more quality time together than we would if it was just the 2 of us. When the kids can't sleep, they go to Sally. So my wife and I are never disturbed after we go to bed. Sometimes Sally and I go to games together, and my wife takes the kids then, because she's not into sports ball. No one in our house is dating anyone from outside it. These are committed relationships that are, to all intents and purposes, exclusive. None of us has ever mentioned seeing anyone else. Even if we were, which again we're not, I don't see how that would make me responsible for him treating Mary terribly because he's jealous. Somehow, he was apparently convinced that he and his beer gut would get all the girls, but no man would be interested in a charming, kind woman who keeps herself in reasonable shape and bakes the best cupcakes you will ever taste. I'd have dismissed this out of hand, but my aunt, his mother, and like 6 other family members agreed that I'm the a-hole and have been insisting that I should apologize to my idiot cousin and help him talk Mary into closing the relationship and staying with him. I like Mary. We've been friends for 20 years and she's a good person. Also friends with my wife and Sally, and a wonderful aunt to my kids. Given the choice between her and Dave, I'd keep Mary in the family along with her kids. Someone in my family's insane here. Is it me or them? Who's the a-hole? Now for the top comments before reading the update. Not the a-hole, and your cousin Dave learned a hard lesson many men have learned. They grossly underestimated how attractive their partner will be and grossly overestimate how attractive they will be when they beg to open a marriage. I've read many stories on here that ends like Dave's. She goes along to keep the marriage lively and finds she's quite a prize for others, while bored boy gets left behind in the dust. Makes me laugh out loud every time. You had zero to do with Dave thinking he was going to get laid left and right and getting a rude surprise instead. He made that mess of a bed and he can lay in it. Everyone in the family pointing fingers at you is out of line. Tell them to STF you and back off, or they'll never see/hear from any of you again. Keep in touch with Mary though. She sounds lovely. None of these dudes seem to stop to consider that they're living proof of their wives' low standards and will not be difficult to replace. Tell the flying monkeys to go screw themselves with a cactus. Point out that they are morons. Block them, no contact. Move on. Maybe have a barbecue and invite Mary, not the a-hole. It would shock no one if Opie were to mention that Dave has always been the apple of his mother's eye. It would explain why Dave believes the sun shines out of his behind, and why he thought women would be lining up to ride him. It would also explain why it cannot be Dave who's screwed up, and why there must be a scapegoat, Opie. I wonder if, in addition, Dave's mom was also a golden child of Opie's parental black sheep? I'm the black sheep child of the black sheep, and my parents' golden child sibling and their children will often wonder, how come I have these things? Own a home, in a stable committed relationship with a loving partner, own my car, have fun outdoor toys and trips, when their kids don't. I think for a while, my parents' sibling even thought their kids deserved some of my parents' estate when they passed. Now for the update. TLDR, my cousin Dave persuaded his wife Mary to open their relationship. Now he's mad she's dating and he isn't. He was blaming me because he claims my extremely close relationship situation made open relationships look easy, just because there's a third adult in my family. A bunch of other people were hassling me to take the blame. So far so stupid, right? Turns out that, unbeknownst to me, Dave's sister Tina reads the sub a lot. And she saw my post and immediately figured out that it was me, posting about her brother, and she won't tell me if she was one of the commenters or not. But for those of you who called that Dave was the golden child, Tina says you were right on the money. She called me this morning, and she seemed to find that really validating. And I have literally never heard her sound so happy. She's usually pretty depressed, so thanks. Everyone who decided to read into their family dynamics, you did her a solid. That was about 8 a.m. I had to get off the phone to head to work. And then at about 10, I got a text from my wife that just said, "Come home now." I got another one just as I was starting the car that said, "The kids are fine," which I really appreciate, because that at least let me change gears from panic to concern. At some point, we might discuss that. It would be good to include that in the first text. Anyway, not the point. I got home as fast as I safely could. I pulled up on the verge and tried to go in the front door, but the handle's broken. Mary's car was parked in the driveway. I had to go in through the garage. There inside was my wife, Mary, and Mary's eldest Jack, male 12. Mary was banging around the kitchen and Jack was crying on my wife. As I understand it, what happened was, just before she called me, Tina texted her brother a link to the post and made some kind of comment about it. I don't know what exactly she said, but Dave went to a rage. Like the kind of thought he grew out of when we were teenagers, breaking stuff and screaming. I thought the last time he did it was the time he hit my little brother and I beat the crap out of him. I'm not saying it was right, but we were kids. I'm also not saying I'm sorry, to be honest. And then he hit Mary. She's got a bruise coming up on her face. I'm shaking writing this. I feel like it's my fault. I can't remember if we told her that he used to be like that. We honestly thought he'd grown out of it. Mary managed to get the kids in the car and drove straight to our place because she knew there'd be someone home. Sally's a stay-at-home mother, and my wife works from home some days, and there's just generally someone home. Dave followed and tried to force his way in. Apparently, my expensive security door was worth the money because he managed to damage the handle, but the door stayed closed. Seems he gave up and ran when my wife yelled that I was on my way home. Jack burst into tears while he and I were moving furniture, so we talked and hugged for a bit, and I was having a lie down in my bed because he was kind of wrung out. We're waiting for a locksmith as well to fix the door. After that, we're going to take him and Mary to the police station to make a report and give statements and whatever's involved in all that. Sally took our kids and Mary's youngest to my parents' place, in case Dave came back. They're too young for this, but Jack refused to leave his mother. We're going to meet up with them after the police station. Those of you who said we should adopt Mary are getting their wish, at least for now. Jack's going to be sleeping in my youngest big boy bed. The kid let guests stay in his cot and sleep in Sally's room for a bit. And Mary's youngest and my eldest will be sharing a room because they're only a few months apart and they get on well. Mary's sleeping in our couch until we get all this figured out. My youngest will probably think this is the best day ever. He hates his big boy bed and is going to get a reprieve from the transition. Plus, he gets to share a room with his ma, and there'll be cupcakes in the house because Mary's stress bakes, and our kitchen counter will be covered in cupcakes. I should add that according to Tina, Dave was telling his family that I talked him into the open marriage thing specifically because I wanted to sleep with Mary. Plus, a bunch of other nonsense that I've honestly forgotten. It's been absolute crap of a day. It is only 2:30. I'm pretty sure I just acquired 12-year-old son 10 years early and seriously messed up, at least for a while. And I have to figure out how I'm going to fit Jack's needs into my life without neglecting my own kids. I can't even tell if I'm exaggerating. Jack's a wreck. And maybe those please be my dad now vibes are temporary, but maybe they're not. You know. Thanks everyone for all of your input. Don't be mad at Tina. I don't think there's any way she could have predicted Dave would lose his mind. I'm not saying it was right. Well, I sure as heck am. Sounds like he needs a repeat performance. Word. I think you need a bigger house so that Mary can stay and maybe bring home a Sally of her own. Heck, even a brick could have more feeling for her than her soon-to-be ex-husband. You aren't responsible. Dave was going to snap sooner or later. Your post moved the timeline up, and while Mary's bruised, she's alive. If something else had triggered him, it could have been worse. Next story. Am I the a-hole for saying I won't ask for help from my in-laws ever again? My husband, 30 male, and I, 27 female, have been married for a little over a year now, but have been together for over 3. He's an only child, which has brought up a couple of issues along the way, but nothing we haven't been able to resolve. When we got married, we moved out of state due to my husband being in grad school and a job offer I got. Unfortunately, life hit us with a curveball, and the office I was working at closed. My husband was close to being done with grad school, and we decided to move back home. My in-laws volunteered to help us with the move back, driving the truck, packing, all of it. They are retired and have the time, so we figured we'd take the help. They stayed with us for close to 2 weeks where we paid for everything. We made the move, and a week after we get settled in, I get a bill from my mother-in-law for all the expenses they incurred in for helping us move. I was very upset, but my husband wasn't even fazed. I asked him what the reasoning for the bill was, and he said they're retired and on a fixed income, so these expenses weren't in their budget. I agreed to pay them what they were asking for, but told my husband I am never asking them for help ever again. I told him we didn't ask for them to come help, they just volunteered. Yet they're charging me for their gas, hotel for the drive back, and some meals? He says I'm overreacting. Am I the a-hole? Now for the comments. Not the a-hole. I wouldn't ever ask them for help again either. I hope that they at least helped enough that it wasn't a waste of your hard-earned money. If you have children or pets that they watch for you, will you get a care bill from them? Like, where does this end? They also should have said ahead of time what they expected their costs to be. Or, since it sounds like your husband expected this, he should have given you a heads up at least. Seriously, this is bizarre behavior. OP should definitely send them an itemized bill for 2 weeks of lodging and all expenses she incurred. Who cares that they're retired? She's unemployed, which seems to be a much worse situation. The balls in some people. Of course not the a-hole. Or if you go over for dinner at their house, will they give you bill at the end? Do you have to tip? Not the a-hole. Hire professionals if you're going to pay people. Not the a-hole. You were also in a situation where you needed to be mindful of your budget. If it had been discussed ahead of time, you could have simply said, thanks very much, but we can't afford to cover these expenses. We'll be taking care of moving in our own, or budgeted for their expenses. Even worse, that her other post from a few months ago is that her husband wouldn't get a job and wasn't interested in taking finances seriously. Not the a-hole OP, but you need to have a bigger conversation with your husband and his financial expectations. He should be responsible for paying his parents, not you. Not the a-hole. As someone that unfortunately had in-laws like this once before, please understand that this is exactly how they will continue to behave for the rest of the relationship together. It will not end here, and this isn't the only situation they will find a way to tally expenses and bill you for. Think very carefully about this, and if you want this for the rest of your life, a serious talk needs to be had about it. And I really don't see how your husband doesn't think this is absolutely absurd. It's something you should come together with on him as well. I'm now divorced from that situation, but holy crap, it was an absolute nightmare. Last story. Am I the a-hole for not letting my sister use my address to send her kids to school here? My sister Jane is a single mother to her autistic son James. James was having a hard time at his school. His school district is severely underfunded, and they just do not care. The schools where I live are pretty nice, and my neighbors, who have kids, said they have a lot of great programs for kids like him. Since I had extra room, I decided to offer to let Jane and James move in with me so he could go to school here. Since he started, he's been doing really great here. The teachers and aides are much more engaged than at his old school. They've really been helping him work through some of his behaviors as well. My other sister Leah is being weird about it though. Besides the better teacher and aides, the school James goes to has a lot of other activities, resources, and in general is just a lot nicer. Leah and her family lived in the same town that Jane and James used to live, so her kids go to the underfunded school. Now, she wants to send her kids to school here too. However, they're not taking any out-of-town students. So Leah wants to use my address so she can send her kids to school here. From what I have seen online, it looks like it can be considered fraud to do that. It's a fairly tight-knit community. People would definitely figure out what we were doing and that they didn't actually live here, so I don't want to take the risk. Besides, Leah's kids aren't having trouble in school. Their school may not be the best, but they're doing okay. Still, Leah thinks it's unfair I won't help her kids get out of the crappy school by using my address, when I have let Jane and James move in just so we can go to school here. It's wonderful that you've opened your home to support your sister Jane and her son James, in providing a better educational environment. Your decision to help them was a thoughtful and caring gesture, and it's making a positive impact on James' life. Regarding your sister Leah's situation, it's important to remember that each family's circumstances are unique. It's not unreasonable for you to prioritize your family's well-being and follow the rules of the school district. Jane and James were in a particularly challenging situation, and you made a choice that was important to their immediate needs. While Leah's desire to provide a better education for her kids is understandable, using your address in this manner may lead to legal or ethical concerns, as you've pointed out. You're well within your rights to make this decision, and it's essential for Leah to respect your choice, just as you've supported Jane and James in their time of need. Ultimately, you've shown kindness and support within your means, and it's okay to set boundaries to ensure the well-being of all involved. Not the a-hole. There are ways to enrich children's educational development that don't involve fraud. Your sister needs to look into that. I think it's great of you to provide your nephew with special needs resources he really needed. Not the a-hole. If Leah got busted, her kids would be out, and the school district would definitely check on Jane and her son. It is considered fraud, and you and Leah would be liable. My town is vicious going after families that use fake methods to get their children enrolled. I would not let her use my address. Where I live, families who lie about their address are fined equivalent to tuition. Sucks that not everywhere has solid schools, but committing fraud isn't a way to fix this issue.